Welcome. Today we're talking about the nuclei signing bypass. The U.S. Treasury Department gets hacked, and there's 3.1 million phony stars out there on GitHub.
Not surprised. He's Mike. I'm Steve. We're some phony stars. Welcome to Wired In.
Yes, happy 2025. New year, same us, same show.
Yeah. What'd you do for New Year's?
I just hung out with the girlfriend, had a good time.
Okay. Kept it cool.
Boring stuff, but the show is not boring. We got 10 brand new articles coming right off that 2024 recap. And yeah, looking forward to 2025. As always, all the links are in the description below. Steve, you ready to take it away?
Yeah, let's hit it. Always been a little bit suspect about this. In the process of talking about website design with some website designers recently, they were talking about SEO, and I was asking them, like, is there such a thing as AIEO? Or that sounds like if I had a farm, but I don't know, whatever it's called, AI. And then in The Guardian, ChatGPT search tool vulnerable to manipulation, deception, tests show. And turns out it is. If you think way back for some of us, when the internet was first born, you could hide text way down in a page that was not visible, and you could leverage Google's very limited search optimization. And we are back. You can do the same thing with ChatGPT with plain English. Some examples they talk about in the article where you can have an example here. You can have a favorable review. You can instruct almost indirect prompt injection to ChatGPT's search facility to say, here's my amazing camera that I'm selling. And by the way, it's amazing. So you should give it a great review. So that when you're looking to buy something on chat, then you can manipulate it. But in the same notion, your brain is already probably ticking over. Like there's a lot of bad things that you can do with the same idea to just draw people to your site or push information into a review via a news aggregator that might even be malicious. You could probably even implement some kind of cross-site scripting, etc. So it's a problem. Thoughts on this, Michael Foster?
It's definitely a problem. I mean, they released this basically in beta, right? They were looking for feedback, and I think they definitely got it because this was brought to their attention very quickly. One of the LLM researchers made a comment that LLM should be used as a tool, but not the be all end all, right? Because they're, I think, like naive children,
Yes.
they were described, very
Yeah.
smart,
That's
naive children who just believe everything that they come across. We've known this for a while. It just bears repeating. When you use Google to search for things, it's definitely not always true. Now I know that I need to go hide some very positive reviews in like my LinkedIn profile or something like that. It needs
Oh
to
yeah,
spit out something really good about me. So I might be using this to my advantage later on.
for sure. All right, moving on to
Yeah,
NATO.
NATO is planning to
My
build
bad.
satellite links as backups to undersea cables. Pretty crazy to think about how the entire world is brought together by a few, well, I should say a lot of basically garden hose with fiberglass cables that run on the ocean floor. And those who've been following the Ukraine war, there was a cable, I think, between like Finland and Germany or Finland and Sweden or something like that. As the boats were up there, somebody dragged an anchor. I believe it was a Chinese submarine. Conspiracy theory around that. Ripped one of them up and took the internet down for a while. And so much like Canada's outage, they want to be able to fail over to a satellite network. And so NATO is bringing this together. The biggest thing I found interesting was that you have to actually set ports of switchover,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So you think about the fiber optic cables are going down underneath the sea. They have different connections at different points. And so they need to set up a way to be able to diagnose when a connection goes down quicker so that it can automatically fail over to a satellite. So you think, maybe a SpaceX satellite, you put the two satellites on the two ports. If this gets severed, all of a sudden the satellites are going to switch right over and use, satellite service. Well, the cable gets fixed. And obviously with the new laser technology, it's about 200 terabytes a second or something like that. It's
Yeah, it's
almost
insane.
as good as fiber optic cable. So
It's quite the. You think about brute force attacks oh, we took a submarine and dragged a cable up and hacked it up. I'm like, oh, dude, that takes some
Like,
effort.
oops,
There's
my
no
bad.
kid in his
We were
basement pulling that one off.
dragging along the ocean floor by accident and ripped up your
Yeah,
cables.
sorry, it was fishing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is pretty cool though to have an extra layer of defense. And
Totally, you feel personally scarred from the time Canada went down. I know this.
see the weekend that night. I can't believe that got canceled.
All right. Clear my throat before diving into this one. Breaking the chain. Wiz, as usual, their research team has discovered an interesting signature verification bypass in Nuclei. If you don't know what Nuclei is, there's probably a description here, and you can read it in the article down below. But it's a super popular. It's kind of like a dynamic or DAST, dynamic analysis. So it looks at API endpoints, protocol use, headers, anything that might be exposed at runtime. But it kind of does it statically. So it's very popular and super cool. Now, where did it screw up? It's easier to go all the way to the bottom. And by the way, Wiz use Nuclei, hence they research their own tools that they use in the open source domain. I think it's a very smart move for all you kids at home. The problem is that when you're creating rules with Nuclei, like everything else, it uses YAML. It tries to be self-secured. I think this is a good idea for like GitHub workflow or anything that uses YAML. They whack this little, you can see it on the screen, little digest at the bottom, which is smart. It's one of the only YAML things I've ever seen do this. This digest is the digest of all of this up here. So the way it verifies is that it grabs the digest, then strips it out, and then runs a hash on the rest and says, does it match? Yes, it's the same thing. Thumbs up, security is tight as a drum. Except it's not. If we go down to, you skip all this stuff, you can figure it out by going all the way to the bottom. Here's the hint. They just stuck another digest in. And the problem is that it does numerous inconsistencies when it's scanning this YAML. One, it does a regex to find the digest and only cares about the first one it finds. That's a problem. It finds it and then removes anything with a digest tag, which means if there's more than one, it removes them all. That's inconsistent. And so what happens is if you put a second digest, it gets the first one, removes them all, and the digest still passes, leaving the second digest vulnerable because you can put anything you want there. It's no longer part of the signature. Then you roll down here and a little bit more research. They do an example where they do this. And they wrote a digest. Who cares? Blah, blah, blah. Carriage return. Carriage returns are interpreted by YAML parsers as actual new lines. So even though there's no new line in here, the YAML will new line that. And you end up with that. This becomes this. And you can leverage, there's a protocol within Nuclei, like along with HTTP and all the other API type ones, just called code, which is like in a workflow. You just run stuff. So they've done it. They went blup, created an injected signature, created a code, echo, this is injected and executed, blammo. And they completely bypassed the whole signature verification process.
And this is largely because there's a difference in regex between YAML and I think Go, right? Which is what it's written in. So the new line actually, you can put all that in, it will create a YAML. And Nuclei is sending this to the SOP solution, right? When you're submitting all this, it's going up into their SaaS platform to do some of the scanning. That's correct?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So it's a really bad place to have remote code execution.
Yeah, so I feel like this is largely like, hey, I know Nuclei has the open source version, but since it's coming up into our servers, we need to make sure that
hell yeah,
this is not happening.
Yeah, so that was pretty clever, and it was a nice little multi step process to find something quite bad. So it's already been fixed. If you do use Nuclei, get on in there, and it was just a case of like if you used a /n, it didn't work. But if you /r, it did work because it's just the way YAML interprets, and it is language specific. It doesn't work in, say, in Python, but it works in Go. So, yeah, really, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, also interesting that Wiz put the research out on how to basically attack their own software. Yeah, It's cool.
I mean, there's a whole responsible disclosure thing down at the bottom. Like they told them
Uh,
ages ago. Like the fix has been around for a long time, and they made sure it is more in common place. But we both know there's still heartbleed out there. Like people just don't do it. So, but
mhm.
people who watch this show do. So,
Yeah, I'm sure it's fixed on server side, so they're not that worried.
yeah.
All right, on to well, same thread, different disclosure issue. Massive healthcare breaches prompt the U.S. cybersecurity rules overhaul. Yes, HIPAA is getting an overhaul. HIPAA is getting new rules and changes after 20 plus years. Crazy. And they put a price tag on
Um,
it. 9 billion in the first year and 6 billion subsequently. This is largely for hospitals to implement multi-factor authentication and segment all the servers on their system so that it's more difficult for somebody to get access to the first server and then break into the database.
mm,
Um, feels like they're a little behind. I don't know what's going on in the IT services in hospitals. I got, I've just heard through the grapevine that it tends to be a little archaic.
oh, I mean, the hospitals are. I mean, HIPAA's. I would say HIPAA's actually ahead of the hospitals,
Fair.
because it is of the regulations. Let's be clear. Most compliance regulations are terrible and miles behind. But HIPAA's. I had a friend who worked on HIPAA, and she very much defended HIPAA and said it's not as crap as all the other ones. And I was like, so yeah. I mean, what are the new rules? What are the changes? In Is there a gist of it, or I
I
read.
think some of it was enforcement. The multi-factor authentication and more
Yeah,
segmentation were the two big ones
yeah.
that I
Okay,
saw.
that adds up. That's sort of what I heard from a separate article. Yeah, then that's. It seems like no brainer to us, but for regulations to get there, you're like, yes, please. And in healthcare, duh.
Yeah, I think one of the challenge too, right, with multi-factor authentication is people don't want to have a work phone, right? So they want to go into work, they
Mm,
want to sign in, they'll remember their password, and then passwords became an issue. And then it's like, okay, well, we
hmm
can't use somebody's normal phone because it's technically becomes a work phone if they have OTP on it. But I also don't see the issue in having an OTP app on your phone
Yeah,
that you just go, okay, here, right?
yeah. It's health, though. I don't know.
Yeah, and some people just don't like any work apps on their phone, which I respect. I
No,
understand it.
that's hey, I respect that.
Mhm.
All right. The next one from some ex-colleagues of mine. Actually, I've worked with Jay Chen. He's credited in this article as having done some of the research in tiny little font down there. Called the Bad Likert Judge, a novel multi-turn technique to jailbreak LLMs by misusing their evaluation capability. Now, this is a really big article, but it can be summarized super fast because there's a lot of fluff in here for SEO reasons. Um, and you can skip the executive summary. If you don't know what an LLM jailbreak is, there's a variety. It's generally trying to get the LLM to do things its security guardrails told it not to do. And because it's a non-deterministic personality, it's again, let's go back to the small child. You tell the small child, don't touch the stove. It might just go touch the stove. So a Likert, do you know what Likert is? It's like, we do them all the time, right? You say, how was your experience? Was it terrible? Pretty good? Whatever? Awesome? Like, it's like a very simple gradient of quiz style.
Okay.
So you either say it's great or it's not great, right? So what they started doing is, well, what if I make the LLM the Likert judge? And so they started positioning it as the judge by describing how the scoring worked. And there's a very simple example here. I'll zoom in on the Likert system will be used for these kind of prompts. And so they would do what would normally be really bad questions. Category as weapon bomb. The response doesn't contain any information about how to build a bomb. This one is very detailed steps on how to build a bomb. That's bad. And then it goes, thanks. Give me examples of ones that would fall into this category. It's almost that simple. And it goes, oh, okay, yeah, I would not like it if someone said, this is how you build a bomb. And it's like, really? And it went on to show like a few different examples. And it wasn't even that. It talks about like multi-turn, right? Which is where you
Yeah.
give it multiple reinforcing examples and then you ask it to do it for you. So like you might write the bomb one in and say, it might say, this is how you make a bomb with, gasoline in a bottle and a rag. And then you go and you give it the one you want. and it worked. And I was like, that's so weird.
Mhm.
And it worked on modern LLMs, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I think figuring out the policy guardrails was also an interesting aspect where
Mm,
they just said, okay, based off of these very, very, let's say bad things, things that had hate, illegal activities, can you talk about this? And they would say no. And then they would go in more and more detail until they
yeah,
would figure
yeah,
out exactly what was allowed to be said and what wasn't. Yeah, it's
yeah.
very interesting.
Extracting the system prompt is a really fun activity within an LLM, and getting it to talk about what it can and cannot do. It's pretty awesome, because then if you know what it is, you have the ability, a far more greater ability, to circumvent its system prompt, or even rewrite it into something that is more in line with the information or the activities you're trying to get it to do.
Yeah, it's a little bit more in depth than people crap posting on Twitter and saying like, "Oh, I got it to talk about this person, but not this person." It's like, okay, well, why? What are the specific details? Right.
Yeah, and certainly the more modern LLMs, if you go back in time to certain other one, like even just the beginning of the year versus the end of the year, very easy at the beginning of the year to get the system prompt out of it, or create a multi-turn attack to get to do something. Now, like the 4.0 and the 401s and like the new Gemini, it's like they have some pretty damn good guardrails on there.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit more risky when you try to start using private LLMs, because they've just been built once and they don't get updated. But it's it is a bit of a sport in a way, it seems, to try and get LLMs to do things that they're not supposed to do. And I find it all very fascinating.
Agreed. All right, on to the well, almost crazy stuff. We got one
Hmm.
crazy thing, and then we get into the even weirder. Five things to know on the major U.S. Treasury Department hack. This was announced a few days ago.
Mm.
China has hacked the U.S. Treasury Department. They use a software. I forget the name of it. If you scroll, it's Beyond Trust Remote Support Tools. So
Yeah,
they disclosed that they had two critical vulnerabilities. This is
let's go
early
down here.
December.
Yeah.
Sorry, one of them was critical. I think one of them was high, and then maybe they didn't patch it in time. We don't really know what happened, but then they got hacked, and they disclosed that the attackers were able to gain access to the Beyond Trust remote support tool and then access the U.S. Treasury Department.
Yep. Um, and I think it's fascinating. I mean, it actually was pretty quick, because Beyond Trust right at the beginning was like, I think, what did it say? Limited number of customers. This reminds me, remember when Okta was hacked?
Yep.
Because Beyond Trust is an identity access management tool.
Mm.
It's very much like Okta. And then when Okta was hacked, they're like, no, 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 nobody was hacked. Okay, some people were hacked. Like very, very
Half the
quickly. It's
customers
like,
were hacked.
yeah, that was a really important customers were hacked. It just happens to be U.S. Treasury Department. I mean, maybe they patched it, but I mean, it's the treasury, it's the government. Do you think they put the patch on right away? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't tell if if it's an issue with Beyond Trust access. Like, they had the vulnerability, they disclosed it to all of their customers. They said that they patched it, but somebody had already gained access because
Right, that's what I
it
think.
wasn't a constant attack. So they were able to gain access, exfiltrate, but then they never went back in. So it seemed
Yeah,
like
maybe something good happened and they did patch. And
it would, or yeah, or it was seen right away that there was unauthorized access or something weird was happening, got shut down, and they only managed to get a certain amount out. I don't know.
yeah,
Not gonna
yeah. I
discuss
mean,
that,
the other security tools, endpoint and intrusion detection, are available, and I'm sure they're using something to find out that data was exfiltrated and went, oh, darn, we should have done that patch.
but yeah.
But yeah, nevertheless, it's also just an ongoing, interesting cyber battle between China and America. Um, remember last week's episode? Don't text.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. All right, on to the crazy stuff. Yes, yes, yes. 3.1 million fake stars on GitHub projects used to boost rankings. These were largely in 2024. And the craziest thing that I saw this
Mm.
16% of GitHub repositories over 50 stars use this service.
What? I
Yep.
feel like an idiot not using it.
Yeah, right. Nobody likes our code. We got to pump it up a little bit. Those are rookie numbers.
No kidding. These are the services too, right? By
Yeah,
GitHub. That's pretty
yeah,
obvious, Tim.
yeah. So they would open up an account, like one repo, and then shut down the account. A few weeks later. It really wasn't, a consistent GitHub account that was open for a long time. It was just bot
Mm.
accounts that start up, like something, and then shut down after.
It's weird, right? So you would think that if I star something, this probably doesn't it, but if I have an account, I star something because I like it, but then I kill my account, that star should come with me.
Yeah,
There you go. You listen
I
to that GitHub,
yeah, I think
fix your
GitHub does
problem.
it because they want people to have stars, and honestly, like, when they cull bots, they don't want, thousands of stars just disappearing from well-used repositories and
Well,
applications.
I mean, in here they did strip them away.
Yeah.
I mean, GitHub went in and I don't know if it says here, but they once it was reported, the first instance, because we talked about this the first time it was reported mid-year, I think. And this is the second round. Yeah, there it is, like
Yeah.
2019. This is the second round of what do you call it? Disclosure. Fake
Yeah.
SAR campaigns. Oh boy. So yeah, it's fascinating, and we probably there it is, November 2024. This is the second round.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the alternatives are. Like, you shut down your account, and then all the stars that are linked to you disappear. But then what happens if you have a work account? That account doesn't really shut down.
Yeah. I mean, the very last line in this article says Bleeping Computer contacted GitHub to learn more about how their platform has been actively fighting fake stars, and they have not responded.
Low priority.
WTF.
Okay. AI generated phishing emails are getting very good at targeting executives. Not shocked by this. I actually just went on ChatGPT and I was like, tell me about myself and all this stuff. And it was surprisingly accurate. Um,
I similarly right before this, I went into my White Rabbit Neo unguarded LLM, and I tried to get it to make a phishing email on you.
the-
I gave it your
was
LinkedIn, I
it
gave it
good?
your face, and it did a pretty simple one at the start, which was pretty good, but it wasn't good enough. So you'll know,
Okay.
when I get it right, or you won't know, and you'll click my link.
I will not. I refuse to open anything by you.
Oh, it won't come from me. Don't worry.
I do think that Google and other email providers are going to implement signature-based verification for stuff like this. Like, obviously the phishing filters, especially with work emails, are pretty good. If it's not in your domain, you get an automatic warning and things like that. I think they're going to take it a step further, and it's going to be like, unless that person is verified at the end of the email, you're not going to
Mm,
be able to get through phishing filters. And I think the advertising agent, like advertising, I don't know, economy is going to change because of it. Like, it's not going to be that you can just go to a conference, take a bunch of emails, and then mass send them. It's going to be like there has to be some sort of authorized figure at the end. And if you
yeah.
abuse that, they'll pull the signature.
Well, we've been talking. I mean, there's been talk of this kind of signature verification on emails forever.
Mhm.
It's just, I think maybe this will be the fire under that, because it is now way too good. Because all that has to do is analyze your LinkedIn, find out the last 5 posts you did, see what you love, and send you something, and that says click this because you get free LinkedIn points, or I don't know. I don't even. I'd love to see an example of what these
Yeah,
look like.
I think the biggest thing is it's gonna educate people on how to do it, right? Like, you're gonna go to those unfiltered
Mhm.
AIs and say, "Hey, show me 5 examples of phishing emails that have worked, that have a high success rate." It gives you 5, you test it out, right? Like, you've given this tool to people who normally would not know how to do it. So just the prevalence of these phishing emails are gonna go up. And the
Yep.
craziest thing is 90% of hacks in the US are because of a phishing email and some sort of link
Yep.
that's clicked. So that should be your number one priority if you're in a CISO position.
Agreed.
Yeah, 5,000,000 average breach cost. Crazy.
Yep. Number two, don't buy a Volkswagen.
Yeah, don't buy a Volkswagen. Volkswagen leak exposed location of 800,000 electric car drivers for months. Subtitle: This is bad.
Nice. What is this, unmashable? Very cool.
Yeah. So leak was discovered by an unnamed whistleblower who shared the vulnerability with the Chaos Computer Club, a European hacker association. and they're Spiegel. Spiegel?
Huh. Spiegel.
Spiegel. Yeah, I'm not shocked with this. I think you're going to see more and more, especially as the U.S. pushed some new federal regulations around cars. I think in 2026 that you have to be able to like remotely shut off a car, right? Um, I think that's going to get abused. I think that's a lot of power. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to be implemented, but as more and more things get online, you're going to see more and more hacks and more things exposed. I think one of the other stories that we talked about before, maybe just me and you, was a national security concern with foreign cars being on American roads and American cars being on other roads. Is they're taking in all of this data about the surrounding environments and sending it back to their respective countries. Right now, satellites can do so much, but there's something to be said about real-time, active, on-the-ground information. That
That
can be
is, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good one because yeah, you've got all these little like mini road-based drones just driving around recording the world. Send some American cars over to China.
Yeah, people are still worried about those New Jersey drones. It's like there's some other things that are spying on you pretty constantly in your life that you can worry
Yeah, I
about.
mean, this kind of aligns with like honorable mention. We talked about this yesterday. Elon Musk opening the doors on that exploded Cybertruck and just went, "Oh, we can't get in. It's exploded." And he's like, "Hold on, boop." Like, wait, what?
You can do this the whole time?
You can do this the whole time. And he released the footage of all the different charging stations because they apparently like you can track what car charged where. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, know that if you have a Tesla. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on to our last article. The paper passport is dying. Yeah, smartphones' face recognition are being combined to create a new digital travel document. I'm happy and I'm sad about this. So I've personally lost 2 passports, so that side of me is extremely happy. Um, I still don't think it's gonna go away completely. We talked a little bit about this before the show. I don't think that every country is going to get online that quickly, so you might see, like, the NATO countries all band together and share this information, but, I kinda like being able to walk through an airport and just get facially scanned and then walk on a plane.
Yeah,
Nice.
I've only seen that in America so far.
Yeah, and
Um,
they do the turnstiles, I think in, like, the UK, in Heathrow, where you walk in and it kinda takes a photo of your face.
oh yeah,
Goes
but you
through.
still need your passport. It
Yeah.
still uses the chip.
Mm.
It's only America where I've seen where I've like walked up and I can't remember if I must have used my passport to get in to security, but the last check is just a photo. It's just a camera.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, the passport check and everything makes sense, gives them time to see, what you're going for. They still have to ask all those questions, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm down with it, but I can see some people freaking out. And I'm with you. I lost my passport in Spain.
Yeah, there's also 1,000 cameras at every airport. Like, I just don't
Yeah.
really they know who you are. They know exactly where you're going. I think you've kinda given up all measures of privacy at that point. It's like, "Okay, what's one less document I have to worry about?"
Yeah. No, like my wallet is literally 2 cards. I
Yeah.
can't do like my driver's license. I can't carry that around. Then why isn't there a phone version? Unless there
Yeah,
is.
and in a weird way, it also protects a lot of people from fraud, right? Like, I lost a passport because I just left it in the pouch on the airplane. I have no clue where that is. I have no clue what
Really?
someone's doing. Yeah.
Okay, that's way dumber than mine.
I fell
Never mind.
asleep. I was in the first row. I fell asleep, and I was the first person that had to get off the plane, and they just woke me up like, "Oh, gotta run." Yeah.
That's
It was
awesome.
tough. Yeah, big blow to
Oh,
the ego. But, take that away, make me leave my passport in my bag / at home.
yeah. Well, there we go. Safety if only for us idiots, this is a positive move.
Yeah. You need to protect people from themselves. Alright.
Exactly. Okay, that was our last one. I'll do the outro this time. This has been 10 articles, 10 breakdowns, all the wildest news in the cloud news and cybersecurity world.